Chosen one, something was spoken over your life before you had a name for yourself, before the world gave you its labels and its categories and its definitions of who you were supposed to become. Something was written, and what was written then is now arriving, not ahead of schedule and not behind it, but at the exact moment that preparation met appointment. And the fact that you are here, that your attention was drawn to this message out of everything competing for it today, is not the result of an algorithm, and it is not coincidence. It is the quiet movement of the same hand that has been arranging this convergence since before you understood what convergence meant. You were not meant to find this. You were meant to arrive at it. 2,000 years. That is the span of time that heaven has been holding something in reserve. Not a doctrine, not a denomination, something older than either of those. A specific pattern of choosing, a certain kind of appointment that is only given to people who have gone through a certain expensive training. And this pattern is being used again in this generation, right now. Not with a lot of people or at a public event. In the life of the person seeing this. In the life of the person who felt the pull before they could explain what it was. I want to talk to the part of you that almost didn't connect. The part of you that has heard these words before and ready for them to fail, just like so many other things have. That tired part of you that's not tired from being lazy or not trying hard enough, but from years of carrying something huge in places that weren't meant to hold it. That's the part of you I'm talking to directly now, because what's about to happen in this message wasn't written for someone who just reads it. It was written for someone who has been in formation, and you know that formation is the right word for your life, even with all the noise of everyday life. You already have the first thing I need to show you. There is no need for you to look for it. The reason no one has given you words to describe what you've been feeling is because words for this kind of experience don't come from normal observation. This means recognizing the person carrying the weight before the weight has a visible form. It comes from an old tradition. Now, let me give you that language. Let me tell you what's been going on. Your tiredness is different from normal tiredness in that it doesn't go away when you rest. You can sleep all night and still have it when you wake up. You can take the day off, and when you come back, it will be ready for you. You can't do anything hard and still feel it in the background, like a low frequency that won't go away. It's not in your muscles, it's in your bones. Not after hard work does it come. It is just there. There is a weight that you feel in your body that isn't physical, but you are carrying it. You've gone to sleep more than once wondering if something is wrong with you. If this is how everyone feels, and you are just not as strong as the people around you, you're fine. This is the weight of carrying a frequency that hasn't been built to work with your home yet. There is always someone who feels the weight of more before the more has a place to land. The person who was chosen doesn't feel like the assignment has no weight to it. It feels like a constant weight that won't go away until the assignment is put in its proper context. And your background is coming together. When the space that fits it comes, the weight won't feel the same. You have been going through something else. Waves of emotion that come from within and have no outside cause. A sadness that strikes in the middle of a normal afternoon, when nothing has happened to cause it. A sudden tear coming up as I look at something small and lovely. A sunset, a child having fun. Hearing music hit something in your chest that you can't name. A happiness that comes and goes before you can stay with it long enough to explain it. A calmness that comes over you for a moment and then disappears, leaving you to wonder if you dreamed it. You've told yourself that this is because of your mood swings. You've told yourself it's because of your hormones, the season, or stress. You have listed it, talked about it, and thrown it out in every way possible. Not a sign, but these waves are there. It's a place to touch. These are the spots in your life where the eternal meets the everyday. The chosen one's veil between what can be seen and what can't be seen is thinner than most people's. That being thin isn't a flaw. It's the way the calling is built. What you feel without a clear reason is often what you see when you don't use the usual filters. Unexpected sadness can happen when you feel someone close to you's grief, but they haven't said anything about it yet. When you feel sudden peace, you may be touching the frequency that is waiting for you on the other side of the preparation. The unfathomable joy comes from briefly connecting with what is true about who you are when the noise dies down enough to let the signal through. Your tolerance for some environments has changed. The change has been happening slowly enough that you might have thought it was a sign that something was wrong with your personality, instead of a change in how you see things. It's not just normal social fatigue. Places that used to feel neutral now feel draining in a way that's different. A place where people only talk on the surface of the room. A meeting where no one is saying anything real, but everyone knows it and keeps going anyway. A place where there is only noise and no depth to it, There is sound and movement, but nothing else. You're not just tired when you leave these places, you're also depleted in a certain way, like someone took something from you that they didn't give you for free. This is not rude behavior, and you don't need to fix it. This is your frequency adjusting to a signal that small spaces can't carry. It gets easier for the chosen one to pick up on things that don't match their frequency as they get closer to it. You were made to go deep, not in the sense of being heavy or serious, in the sense of real things, real presence, and real truths being spoken by real people who have agreed to stop performing. You are not being dramatic when you say that you can't calm down in places that don't have this. It's telling the truth. This makes me sad. And I don't want to sugarcoat it, because the people in those draining rooms aren't bad. A lot of them are people you care about. There are a lot of people on that list who have been in your life for years and years. And the growing space and time between you and some people and places doesn't say anything about how valuable they are. The difference in frequency between where they are and where you are moving is what it says. This far away wasn't your choice. It's making its own choice, and the pain is real. It's sad to grow up and leave a place that was once home. You can fully feel your grief, while also knowing that what seems like loss from one point of view is actually getting ready from another. It's not empty space that's being made. It's getting ready for something that your old frequency couldn't bring in. For the people who speak your language and the places that were built to fit your abilities at a deep level, a creative restlessness has been building up in you for so long that you can't remember the exact date it began. You feel like you need to say something, build something, or create something, but the shape of it hasn't fully formed into something you can hold and carry forward yet. This restlessness is not the worry of someone who has no plan. It's the weight of a vision, looking for a way to get out. This is how the artist feels before the work comes in. This is what the builder feels before the structure can be seen. The voice knows this before the words come together and reach the right people. What you're carrying is not a lack of purpose. It's the pressure of purpose before it takes shape. The stage right before crystallization, when everything is there, but the shape hasn't set in stone yet. There have also been confirmations, the ones you almost didn't believe, because you know how they sound to the skeptical part of your mind. That string of numbers that shows up right when you're thinking that thought seems to back it up. The phrase you hear from someone you don't know is exactly what you needed to hear and couldn't have made up on your own. The door that opens the day after you close the one that was blocking your way, as if the universe was waiting for you to let go before presenting you with the new one. It's hard to use probability to explain the timing coincidences that happen too often. You didn't make these up. You speak a language that is unique to you and is used in everyday conversation. You have been learning to read it, even though you told yourself you were just making it up. One more thing is a sign knowing. That way you can understand something before the proof shows up to show how you know it. How you can tell what someone is really like in the first few minutes of meeting them, before they have time to put together the public image they have. The way a choice feels wrong before you can explain why, and the explanation comes later as confirmation of what you felt first. When you get certain ideas, they come to you whole and complete, not because you thought them up, but because they went through your mind. It's like something said them to you. This isn't ego. This isn't being proud of yourself. This is the power to see. Plus, the ability to see things through is always the first thing that shows up in someone who has been given unusual power. Before the platform, the perception comes. Before the recognition, there is the knowing. You have been keeping it to yourself for longer than anyone, not even yourself, has given you credit for. Please know that every seed you plant in this mission grows into a torch that shines in someone else's darkness. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our community, does not go to a channel. Your actions are supporting a divine mission to save lost souls. But more than your support, we want your presence. When you head to our community through the link in the description or the pinned comment, you aren't just visiting a site. You are entering a community of like-minded believers. This is a sanctuary where you can post your prayer requests, lift up the burdens of others, and engage in daily discussions with a family that speaks the language of faith. Whether you are joining one of our membership tiers for deeper study, sowing a seed of faith, or simply joining our daily morning prayers, you are helping us build a global altar of worship. Heaven moves through willing voices, but it grows through a community that stands together. Each gift you give acts as living water for those in our community seeking healing and hope. Give, and it will be given to you, is the promise that sustains our shared mission. I invite you now to step out of the shadows and into this circle of prayer. Come with purpose, join the conversation, and plant your seed in fertile ground. Let's open the heavens together. Release your seed today. Join our community and see what God brings back into your life. That which you just saw is the first layer. These signs show the way. They show the way. They are not the end goal. Realizing who you are is not the end of the revelation. It is the beginning. What made you this way? What was being built during the years when nothing seemed to be going on? When there was only the field and no palace to be seen? That part of your story changes everything about how you understand it. That's where we'll go next. A shepherd outside of a town isn't important in the grand scheme of things. He is the youngest and the one who no one remembers. Everyone else is brought out before the prophet comes to anoint the next king, but no one thinks to call him in. His own father doesn't think he should be a candidate. The kid is out in the field. So long has he worked in the field that he no longer holds his breath for an invitation. Long enough to have gotten along with the field in some way. A peace that is chosen, not one that is given up. The kind that comes from deciding that the work that isn't seen is important, even when no one is looking at it. After seeing all the brothers, the prophet knows that none of them is the one. He then asks the father if there are any more. And the dad thinks for a moment before saying, "There's one more." The youngest is out with the sheep. What they decide next changes everything. This is the one out in the field, the one no one kept track of, the one whose years of training, invisibly, were the training that none of the brothers who could be seen had been able to get. And when the oil is poured over him, something that was being built behind closed doors is shown to everyone. It wasn't made at that moment, but it was revealed. It was there all the time. It was always his. But the field was just the right place to shape it into something that could be used for the next assignment. Your time in the field wasn't a punishment. I want you to take that not as a comforting phrase, but as a fact about what has been going on in your life. You weren't overlooked by the person who matters most during the years you were hidden, waited, and were ignored by places that should have seen you. You carried your vision in rooms that weren't big enough to hold it. Someone who can see what goes on in the field picked the field for you, because it has something that the palace can't. You learn to hear a voice that would have been completely lost in the noise of fame in the field. You learn to trust a thought that doesn't need to be confirmed by anyone else. You learn to stick with an assignment even though there is no clear evidence of how important it is. To be in the dark without becoming the darkness, and to be in the silence without thinking that it means you're done is something you learn. You learned that people who make it through the field don't do so because they are very determined. Around the middle of what they can't control, they figure out that they were never really as alone in it as the field made them feel. Something is being built in secret that can't be built in public. No matter how smart, resourceful, or determined the person is. Patience that doesn't mean giving up, but trust in a timing that doesn't work on the human calendar of urgency. The skill of being able to hold space for someone else in their pain because you've been through it yourself and know where to find relief and where not to. The kind of faith that doesn't need proof because it knows how to read signs that the naked eye can't see. Being gentle with broken things because you know what it's like to be broken yourself and know what it costs to be treated badly. None of this comes from being comfortable. It's not easy to make any of it. That which is about to be given to you needs all of that which was made in the field. It taught you something that no one could have taught you in a classroom. Figure out how to stay when there is no clear benefit to doing so. Because of this, the field does not offer certificates of completion. The field doesn't show that the preparation is going in the right direction. The field just keeps going. And the chosen one either learns to trust what they can't see or doesn't make it through. You found it? Not all the time. There were times when I had doubts, dark nights, and asked myself if any of it was real. But each time you found enough to go one more step. And each step you took in the dark made you better at navigating in the dark, which is something the palace can't do. The records from long ago all support this pattern. Every person who was given unusual power had to go through unusual training. Before the burning bush, Moses lived in the desert for 40 years. Before he was raised, Joseph spent 13 years in the pit and the prison. Before the moment that called for everything she had become, Esther went through the making of the palace preparations. People who didn't know what the preparation was for couldn't figure out why it was taking so long in any of the cases. There was only one person inside the process, and even they didn't always see the whole plan. The plan was real, though, and it worked. The power is at work in your life right now, even in places where you can't see the signs of its power. When you step into the real world, you'll need everything that the field taught you. There was nothing else to listen to in the silence, so the hearing got better. The ability to wait that got stronger as the time spent waiting went on. The seeing without first needing confirmation from someone else. The kind of strength that comes from sticking with something even when victory was out of reach. The compassion that came from being in the wilderness yourself and knows what it's like to be on the inside. Nothing else could have been used to get any of this. The time spent getting ready was not wasted. The qualification was the work that was done. Also, the assignment is getting close enough that you can feel it building up in the air around you. Before this revelation gets even more profound, I want to name something. It's possible that what you've been feeling as your frequency changes and your resonance inside you rises is connected to a path that was made just for people like you. A path that has been kept alive in the sound traditions of two different lines of people on opposite sides of the world. And that has been made available to this generation for somebody just like you as you enter this season. The Genius Song is the first one. The second one is known as the Wealth Signal. I'm not leaving this message to try to sell you something. It's important that I name them now, because the next revelation will show us exactly how these two lineages work. Before we go any further, I want you to know that the path is already set. It's ready to go in the description below, and the comment that's been pinned above this video. The door is already open for those whose spirit says so. If you need all the information before the next step is clear, what comes next will get you there. Let's keep going. Modern people have almost completely forgotten a truth that teachers from long ago knew. We're not talking about vague, mystical ideas here. These ideas are specific, based on facts, and come from the way the mind and spirit were built to work together. This is the truth. People sometimes use the word ordinary in a mean way, but you were not born that way. What I mean is that you were not born in the usual way. The majority of people have had something active inside them since early childhood that they have been consciously stifled. It's not your fault that you were slashed. The people who took part in it are not to blame, because the world forgot how to protect what the children of every kept tradition were born with. This is what was bound to happen. I'll start with the first part of this. People who study the brain today call a certain mental state gamma. That word, that measurement, describes the state that every child is in before they learn how to live in the real world. Wonder and an open mind are the states in which learning comes in whole, not in pieces. These states allow the spirit to receive what an adult mind would argue away. And the question does not have to be answered for the person to be able to rest in it. The kid doesn't try to be interested. The operating system that comes with it is curiosity. The kid doesn't learn how to be open. They have no choice but to be open. They take in the truth like dry soil takes in rain fully, without question, without first deciding if the truth is worthy of being taken in. Western sound traditions that go back a long time, the Gregorian lineages, the Byzantine chant schools, and the Carthusian monasteries were not performing theatre. Few people outside of those places ever fully understood what they did. They were being very precise with something. They were protecting a sound structure that kept the gamma state across communities of people who lived for hundreds of years. Ancient people who built temples bent stone into acoustic shapes that bent sound around the listener for the same reason. Different generations learned the same understanding through oral traditions that passed on specific frequencies from teacher to student, from throat to ear, without writing them down. This was possible because the frequency lived in the sound and not in a symbol. It says in Matthew 18:3 that the chosen person must become like little children. This is not a figure of speech or a moral lesson. It is a precise description of the state of mind the chosen person must be in order to receive what has been prepared for them. Then the quieting down started. It's not a plot. It's just pressure building up, slowly from everywhere. Industrial schools taught kids that being curious was silly and being sure was useful. There was social conditioning that praised performance and shamed sensitivity. Modern life is so loud and constant that the gamma state, which used to be something that all humans did naturally, became the exception and, for most people, a distant memory. The suppression gets stronger around age 7, but it can happen earlier. What was once a birthright is no longer available. The child who used to live in the open starts to learn how to protect themselves like an adult. They feel this dimming more deeply than others because they had more to lose. This is because the chosen one was born with an unusually high gamma dominance. It's louder in the person who was born with the most frequency. The second level is one that the ancient Western lineages weren't fully ready to deal with, because the East was carrying something else at the same time. Over 300 years, the Vedic sound traditions of the Indian subcontinent passed down a sound architecture and a specific spoken script from temple to temple, teacher to student, and mouth to ear from one generation to the next. There was no written record of this because what was being passed down lived in the breath and not in any symbols that could be written down. With great care, this tradition kept alive the alpha state, the reception channel, and the frequency at which a ready person moves from seeking to receiving, not from working hard to being lazy. From the mode of always reaching that modern life makes as its default to the open-handed posture inside that the ancient Vedic sages said was the only way for what has been planned to arrive without any problems. The Vedic sages saw something that everyone who watches this can confirm with their own body. The reception channel is closed by striving, the constant reach mode of modern life. The mind that is always calculating, always watching, and always working is exactly the frequency that stops what abundance, alignment, and divine provision need to happen. This is because the mind has been trained to think of resting as falling behind. These days, instruments call it beta hyperactivity. The wise people of the past called something different, and they built whole disciplines of stillness and sacred practice around keeping the community safe from it. In modern times, whole economies have been built around the need for it, and the chosen one, who was born with both gamma and alpha running strong, has been living in a world that has consistently stifled both at the same time, but from different directions. The child mind shut down on one side, and the reception channel shut down on the other. The pain you've been carrying for years, that constant feeling of being close to something that won't quite arrive, that feeling of reaching for something you can feel but can't hold, that pain is not a sign of bad character. The result that can be measured and planned for is that both frequencies are kept below their design threshold. Ancient teachers from both lines of teaching always knew this first. The child's mind needs to be healed, because children are open to receiving. It doesn't work for the child to ask for blessing. Before opening its hands, the child doesn't do a worthiness check. When the gamma frequency is brought back online, or when the child mind comes back online, the reception channel opens naturally in the next movement. The adult has been working hard to get what the child has been asking for. First become a child, and then get what a child has always been promised. Two different traditions from two different continents, written down 3,000 years apart. One conclusion stood strong through the distance and the difference, and it stayed true even when others tried to silence it. Before I tell you everything that these two lineages kept alive, let me name something that was happening in you before you knew it had a name. This kind of appointment, carrying two frequencies at once, hasn't been fully active in 2,000 years. It's not that the frequency wasn't present in people during that time. The frequency is, and has always been there, because someone who has both gamma and alpha at their optimal level. Someone who can hold both the child mind and the open reception at the same time, without the suppression that modern life brings to. Everyone needed a very specific kind of preparation. That kind of preparation happens in the field, in the wilderness, and during the years you have been walking through it, quietly and precisely. We have now reached the deepest level, the one that reframes everything that came before it. This is what 2,000 years of patterns have been building up to in this life, in this generation, right now. That phrase, "You were born as a child of light," is not poetry. This is an old way of describing someone who comes into the world with both frequencies fully active and strong. Extremely high gamma, which is the state of genius curiosity and wonder. The openness that receives revelation before analyzing it, and extremely high alpha, which is the manifestation channel and the receptivity posture, the state in which what has been planned and what has been promised can meet without having to work hard to connect. At birth, both waves and frequencies were strong and active. They were there before the world started to quiet them down. In the old tradition, words that match this dual signature were used to describe every figure with unusual power. People the text called chosen, set apart, or appointed, didn't put in any more work, discipline, or willpower than anyone else. They came from different frequencies, and what the world has been trying to hide from you for years is exactly what makes you ready for the assignment that is now coming. What you do next doesn't start your appointment. It was set up before you got there. The next thing you do is just the first clear step toward what was already yours. Take a deep breath before we go on. No, this is not a ceremony. That's getting ready. Because what comes next is the full picture of what was saved, what is being fixed, and what you are being asked to receive this season. And I want to say it straight out, because truth is honorable, and there's no need to hide something that just needs to be named. What the old Western monastic sound traditions kept alive was put back together by a modern listener, a keeper whose name is not given here, so that the work and its history can speak for themselves without the person's life getting in the way. This person got away from the noise of normal research and listened for years to find out what was still being carried in the old sound architectures. The frequency was still there. He put together the sound structure again, using what the contemplative traditions had kept alive. He played it over and over again for 7 minutes every day. He called it the genius song. No need for a mantra. There's no need to practice meditation. There's nothing you need to learn first. In the language of modern measurements, it means that gamma waves are once again dominant. In the language of the past, it was said to awaken the child mind that never died or left. It did nothing but sleep. The magic comes back. You are back to being open, like you were before the world taught you its armor. After years of striving, the ability to receive that was locked behind the door of defensive adulthood starts to open again. The gamma restoration creates the exact state of mind that Matthew 18 talks about. The person who is restored is like a little child again, curious, open, and able to receive without first negotiating. This person is neither naive nor immature. The genius song alone undoes what the silencing did. The child's mind wakes up. You're once again curious in ways that will surprise you, like when you were younger and the world didn't make you curious. Years of guarding begin to loosen up and return the openness that was hidden. The restless creativity finds a way to flow. Ideas that were trying to get through closed doors now find ways to get through. What is available is deep and full for those who start with the genius song or the restoration wave. This is not only part of an offering. This really is a first restoration. And for many of the chosen who start here, this one shift is all that changes. Still, the gamma restoration can't fully open something because the reception channel is a separate architecture. Even though the child's mind is awake, it doesn't automatically go into the alpha state if the nervous system is still running at full speed in the beta state. And for the chosen one, who has been striving for years, trying to reach something that always seems just out of reach, working hard to get what they were trying so hard to get, the beta frequency is running strong. Even though the genius song frequency may be waking up the child mind, the hand is still only partly open. The wonder is coming back, but the plenty is still coming slowly. The second wave hasn't been opened yet, which is why, for 300 years, the ancient Vedic tradition of the Indian subcontinent had been following the alpha path on its own. Across the world from the Western contemplative traditions, they came to the same conclusion, but in a very different way. A second modern witness, who also worked without the background noise of normal striving and didn't want to let urgency drown out the signal of what had been kept alive for thousands of years, found what the Vedic lineage had kept whole all that time. That's right. He used what was still there. He called it the sign of wealth. 5 minutes of sound with a 9-word script that is spoken to yourself while the sound plays. What it does is make alpha waves stronger. the striving beta stops talking. The channel for reception opens when a child opens their hands, because they know their father will give them something. Not through willpower or belief work, but through sound that goes straight to the body, which the Vedic sages knew was the first receiver and doesn't go through the mind's argumentative surface. On the other side of the striving, what was there? The provision, the alignment, the confirmations, the connections, and the open doors start to show up on their own. Two separate keepers, two traditions that have been passed down, and two continents. One conclusion that teachers from both lines of history have always held. The child mind has always felt what the gamma frequency does in the brain when the child wakes up. What the alpha frequency does for the spirit, the Vedic sages saw as opening two waves that open the door to the kingdom. The order of these waves is important. The child's mind is fixed first. Since a child gets what they want without having to ask adult for it. Once this happens, the child's mind is in its natural alpha state, which means it is not only open, but also in sync. It's the state that Matthew says is needed before you can receive the kingdom. Take on the role of a child, and then get what that child was always promised. You can choose between three paths. First, you can start with restoring the child mind by itself with the genius song. Then, you can let the gamma frequency fix what decades of silencing caused. This path is revered and finished. This first wave is what the Spirit is calling for from some chosen ones who have had their child mind pushed down for so long and so deeply. The smartest thing to do is to start here and let this restoration settle before the second wave. The second way is to start with the reception channel and the wealth signal. This works best for people who have been spiritually active for a long time and whose child mind frequency is closer to the surface and easier to access than the alpha channel is right now. That path is also whole and respected. And the third path is the one that both ancient traditions have always said is the most powerful and in line with the plan. Both waves at the same time in a row. First, genius song to heal the child's mind. Then, wealth signal to let the child's mind heal and be ready to receive what has been prepared. Full restoration, not just one frequency, both in the right order, as agreed upon by the wisdom of both lineages. For a moment, put one hand on your chest. Take one deep breath, not to do anything or make an experience happen, but to feel the body that has been preparing you and is now standing at the door of something that was written before it had a name. Don't ask which path is the most impressive or the most committed. Just ask yourself, which path is mine right now? Which path does your spirit tell you to take? Some people will feel called to start with the restoration, the genius song, or the child mind. Some people will feel the need to start with the response, the sign of wealth, or the open channel. Some people will know right away that both together is the way. We honor all three. You can get all three. You are the one with discernment. The door is yours because you are sure of yourself, not because of pressure from outside. There are more than 18,000 people who have been on these paths before you and felt what you feel now as you read this message. More than 96 of every 100 people who started have kept going. The paths are free. All three are ready for you. In the comment above this video and in the description below it. Only look if your spirit tells you to. If not, that step is not needed for this message to be complete. And if you get to the other side of the first door and feel the call to something bigger, something that goes deeper than what the sound has shown you, you will know what it is. After being healed, the child mind knows how to receive without being told what to pick. If you feel a pull toward more, take a small step toward it and ask the Spirit to tell you if you should keep going. If it doesn't work, don't push it. The first one is fine, your judgment, not how quickly you need to make a decision or how it compares to what other people are choosing is what matters. Listen to the still, small voice that has been talking to you all these years. Trust that voice. As this awakening grows inside you, know that helping with this mission is not a joke. It is a sign from God. You can support this work through the link in the description or the pinned comment, whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our Ko-Fi community. By doing so, you become part of Jesus' plan to save souls who are still stuck in fog. Every seed turns into light that fights against darkness. If you water others, you will be watered yourself, Jesus says. This is not history. It is a living promise about your future. Come into this moment with faith and a plan. What God has already planned for your life can be unlocked through your giving. With you in most of the groups you've been in, there's something that doesn't have a name. Not because the thing doesn't exist, but because the circles weren't made to hold it. The places you lived, worked, had relationships, and even spiritual places that should have given you names for what you carry, only gave you partial words, at best. You made do with what you had. You talked about what lives inside you in terms that fit the containers that were available. And you always knew that the container was smaller than the content somewhere in the words. The box is different today. Now, I want to give you the language, not as a label to wear, but as a truth to live by, not as a group you belong to, but as a nature you receive, because you can't fully carry something that you haven't fully claimed. And what has been growing inside you through the field, the wilderness, the silence, and the years of work that you haven't been aware of, is now ready to be named, not as something you become, but as something you know you already are. You see things, the one person in every room who can sense what everyone else can't. What kind of person can tell what the mood is in a room before anyone speaks? In the first few minutes of meeting someone, before they have had a chance to set up the public face they have, who knows the truth about them, more than what your normal senses could tell you, has always been registered by you, in spite of your best efforts to make sense of this by using pattern recognition, observation, or inference. You've always known that something else was going on beneath the surface. This other thing was too big for the explanation to encompass. What was going on was the perception of a quality that doesn't work the usual ways. It goes through the seer capacity, which is always the first thing that's there in someone who has been given a strange appointment. Before the platform, the perception comes. Before the recognition, there is the knowing. It's been on your back, quietly and faithfully, for longer than anyone around you has known. If someone walks into a room and changes the mood without trying or meaning to, that person is the light bearer. You can't just walk into a room and make it warm. The warmth is built in. It's more of a frequency than a behavior that lives in you. And it changes the emotional climate of every place you go in ways that people notice and react to before they can even say what they are reacting to. Their goal is to find you, but they don't fully understand why. Being with you makes them feel less alone, less afraid of what they're going through, and less sure that what they're going through makes them fundamentally different from everyone else. You give this just by being there. That's not a skill. That is a scheduled event. The light bearer doesn't shine just by trying. The light bearer shines just by being. And sometimes you have been a light in the darkest times of your own life. There were people in those spaces who didn't know how much they needed what you brought just by being there. Breaking the cycle is what you do. There is a certain weight to this identity that the others don't have. No one in your family tree was able to break the patterns you inherited. Family habits are passed down from one generation to the next, like furniture is moved from one house to another. as if they were permanent parts of the building, and not things that could be looked at, chosen, or let go of. And you came with the full weight of what came before you. Every voice from the past, every belief that isn't tested, each pattern that wanted to keep going through you. You made the choice that caused the transmission to break. Not once, a lot of times, in lots of different ways. You paid for that breaking with other people. You took on the resistance of people who needed things to stay the same, to feel safe, and who felt like they were abandoned when you chose to live a different life. It took you a while to hold the new pattern until it was stable enough for other people to join without it falling apart. What you break doesn't get fixed in people who come after you. The family tree has changed because of decisions you made in a room where no one praised your bravery. That's the cycle breaker's weight and gift. They are both real. You have both. You are the warrior of the spirit world. This does not mean the word in an angry or hostile way. That kind of person who doesn't fall apart when pressure comes from many directions at once. That kind of person who has been surprised and been surprised to find that something inside doesn't break under the pressure, but instead gets clearer. The spiritual warrior doesn't have no fear. They really feel the fear. No matter how much they worry about what's at stake, they still stand where they are supposed to, because what's not at stake is their comfort, their safety, or the protection of a version of themselves that they have grown to value. What's at stake are the people who will come through after they are held, and their freedom and safety. You have stood your ground, even though you were never asked to. You held it without being noticed or calmed down. After the next season, you'll be able to see what's on the other side of your holding. You will know what it was worth. And you are the pioneer, the first person to go into uncharted territory, not because you were elected or because you want to be the best. You are the pioneer because of something that has put you on the edge of rooms that no one has ever been in, questions that no one has ever asked, and thresholds that have never been crossed before. This has given you a calm that even you didn't understand, because it didn't feel like courage. You felt like you knew this threshold. It looked like one you had stood at before in some way you can't quite describe. And the recognition wasn't fear. It was the strange peace that comes from finally getting where you've been. Pioneers don't get shocked when they get to the frontier. The leader shows up and says, "Yes, this is where I've always been going." He or she then turns and holds the door open for those who come after. So they don't have to start from the beginning. There have been 100 quiet ways of telling you that what you carry is too much, too sensitive for everyday life, too intense for everyday conversation, too serious for the rooms that were open, too much hearing in a world that values distance, and too much seeing in a world that values comfort. Over the years, you took those messages to heart. You tried to get smaller for a while, to squeeze the frequency into a shape that would work with what was being given, to keep what you knew below the level where it made other people feel bad. It didn't work either. Not because you were doing it wrong, but because you can't squeeze something that it was made to hold fully. It was always the container, never the contents. The container is also being changed. Let me say something about your life now. The reason I asked you to stay, which I told you at the start of this message, is coming. To get close, don't perform well or work hard, but in reception. The way the child gets something without first earning it. God of every valley and every peak, of every season that felt like it was over, and every threshold that looked like the end, but was actually a door. I'm going to show you who is watching this. This request is not a joke. This is a planned presentation of the person who has been training for the job that is coming up now. I stand in the gap for someone who couldn't do it all by themselves today. They forgot they could be carried because they have been carrying so much for so long. It's not that they are weak, they just forgot, and they are being carried right now. It's no longer true that the delay meant rejection, the silence meant absence, or the years spent in the field meant that the person who sent them there had forgotten about them. What was kept secret for years is now fully recognized by someone who knows what goes on behind closed doors and respects what is done behind closed doors. The preparation was real, the formation was planned, the field was there for a reason, and that reason is now being met. That person will no longer have to carry the weight of having to defend their calling in places that weren't ready for it, the weight of being misunderstood by people who wanted them to stay small, to feel safe, and the weight of the years when the proof of their purpose was hidden, but they kept walking into it anyway. That weight was the tool. It did what it was told to do. That which it was sent to do has been done, and it is now being laid down, because what comes next doesn't need it. What comes next only needs what was made by carrying it. Someone who is here right now is sealing something in their spirit. It's a decree that has been spoken over the last 2,000 years of preparation. It's an appointment that has been confirmed not by human authority, or recognition, but by the one whose word set the stars in motion, and who calls each person by name and has never forgotten the name of the person who has been in the field. You're not behind schedule. You're not behind. You are not the version of yourself that doesn't measure up when you look at other people's timelines. In the exact way that the formation called for, you are the one who was made for this. You are already getting attention from the relationships that belong to this season. They will recognize you by your frequency, not by your credentials or position. These are people who were in their own field, in their own formation, and are now coming out into the open. No matter how far apart you are, when you meet for the first time, the spirit in them will recognize the spirit in you. Your family, from different angles, you were ready for the same season. The thing that is needed for the assignment is already happening. What you can't see yet is already moving toward you. It's not a reward for being good while you waited. It's a resource for the confirmed assignment. The chosen one isn't paid for their skills. There is a mission that pays for the chosen one. And that mission has been confirmed right now. The resources back that up. You, chosen one, are the one who sees, brings light, breaks cycles, fights spiritual battles, and leads the way so that those who come after you don't have to start from scratch. For this very reason, you were held back not as a punishment or an accident, but as a matter of fact. World did not have the box for what you carry before. It now has one, and you are entering it with both waves fully restored, your childlike mind awake, and your receiver channel wide open, ready to receive what was written before you had a name. If this is true, don't try to downplay it before it hits you. Don't make it a habit to downplay what is said over you so that you don't have to face the weight of what it means. Take it in the same way a child does, without having to earn it or bargain for it first. Just take it in with open hands and a quiet yes that doesn't come from confidence, but from a desire to stop arguing with what you already know. That's how it is, yes. Chosen people all over the world are getting the same confirmation right now. In this moment, in this season, you are not the only one going through what you are. A group of people who were ready, who were formed in the wilderness, and who were anointed in the field, are coming out into the open at the same time as you. Share this message with someone who has been surprisingly quiet lately, or who is going through a change they can't explain to the people around them. This person needed to hear that the waiting was preparation and the field was not abandonment. They may have been waiting for the right person to tell them about this. That's not a little thing. The pioneer is moving the door and holding it open. Leave the word yes in the comments below if something in this message made you feel like you already knew something, or if what you heard felt less like something new and more like something you remembered. When you stand in who you are without any qualifiers, that's when you start to receive fully what you've been holding space for since the field began. Not as a performance. Keep in touch with what this channel is building this season and the community of prepared people that is coming together at this time. That's why the subscribe button is there, but only if this really met a need in you. If no one else has told you this today, let me be the one. You have been honest in the field. What's coming is not a reward for a job well done. It's the end of a preparation, and it's getting closer than it ever has been. I'll talk to you again in the next message. You are about to enter your divine future, but remember, this breakthrough is not for you alone. Your testimony is the bridge someone else will use to reach their own miracle. Archangel Michael is inviting you to visit community through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our community, does not go to a channel. Your actions are supporting a divine mission to save lost souls. By joining our like-minded community, you are no longer praying in isolation. You are adding your voice to a global sanctuary where we discuss the word daily and stand in the gap for one another. This is not poetry when Jesus says, "Give, and heaven will open over you." On this platform, every seed you plant turns into oil for your destiny, fire for your calling, and a hedge of safety for your family. Now is your time. Step into our community prayer wall, share your heart, and as you give, watch God multiply what you let go of. Let's finish this journey together. Visit Out Community now, join the family, and see your heavens open. Before we get to the end of this powerful story, let's reflect on this deep truth. You did not find this message by accident. This is a divine appointment meant specifically for you. You are being invited into a protected, faith-filled community at the link in the description and pinned comment, a place where divine abundance is not just a hope, but a promise built on the word. By heading to the site right now, you are unlocking access to a sacred community of like-minded believers. When you join our membership tiers, you gain immediate entry to powerful content, daily devotions, and divine insights that are hidden from the world. This is your chance to enter a sanctuary where you will receive spiritual guidance, unwavering support on our prayer wall, and speedy progress toward your destiny. Do not let this moment of destiny pass you by. Your breakthrough is waiting. Join our inner circle through the exclusive link in the description. This is how you guarantee you never miss the personalized messages and spiritual warfare tools meant to elevate your life. If you feel called to deepen your connection, the link is waiting for you in both the pinned comment and the description. For those who want to amplify this work and carry the light home, you can find our guided e-books and Bibles in the pinned comment. Whether you join as a member or sow a seed through our resources, your presence and energy change the world. Take the step. Your abundance awaits.